Hello and welcome to a new episode of Talking Snooker with Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf. Once again, talking about the game we all love.
Yeah, hello everybody. Thank you for coming along as always, and feeling a bit hot in here because it's World Championship fever I'm struggling from.
Oh my God. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if last year was a bit underwhelming, this year's the opposite, Phil. Absolutely electric first week. Pure Sheffield drama. I mean, the Easter weekend I thought was just magic first 3 days. Next few pretty good, still with loads of great stories. And just to put you in the picture, we are speaking on a Friday lunchtime here, aren't we? So pretty much a week of the tournament done. Things happening in the last hour that are massive. We'll tell you about those, won't we, coming up. But we're going to do a bit of a whistle-stop tour because, frankly, we're in the middle of everything. So we appreciate you tuning in. We, of course, like so many other podcaster services, like to do catch-ups, but we know that events, dear boy, events take over. So, well, as I say, Phil, let's just focus on the first round, shall we first? It feels like a while ago already, on the first day of the tournament. Lepe Fan 10, Kyren Wilson 9. Well, what can you say, really? Top piece of opening day and opening night drama. Wilson 6-3 up. Lay winning 6 frames in a row. Wilson making a fight of it. But hats off to Lay for winning the decider. And look, my final word on the Crucible Curse for now, Phil. I do think it's fun. Of course it is. But when you see the BBC leading with the headline, oh, the Crucible Curse strikes again, obviously people have a bit of seriousness attached to it. And I know we like our narratives. I think it's far too hard and narrow ultimately for a curse narrative. But most people in snooker seem to love it. So I'm thinking basically, Phil, I can't beat them. I might as well go back to joining them.
Yeah, I think it's how seriously you take it, isn't it? No one actually thinks the Crucible is cursed. There's no actual hex on it. But it's weird. I mean, maybe because it is talked about so much, it does get in people's heads a bit. I mean, Kyren was so confident about breaking it, but maybe there was something in the back of his mind when Lay was coming back there and looking so good and getting the odd run of the ball. And there's something in there in the psyche thinking, maybe I am cursed, maybe I can't win. So yeah, no, it's talked about so much that you could understand why that would happen. But what a first day. It was so good. That evening was just, I mean, not if you're a Kyren Wilson fan, but it felt like the perfect start to the tournament. So dramatic. Um, and sort of a new star. Very few people who were watching it on the BBC then would have seen Lepe fan play before. He did brilliantly. Um, and yeah, I mean, it was the ideal bit of drama in the undeciding frame, and it was massive swings, wasn't it? Because when Karen, Lay won the first two, and you think, "Oh, interesting," but then you forget how long these games are. Then Karen finishing that first session 6-3, think, "Okay, that's he's got over those nerves. He'll sort of stroll to victory." Then nothing like it, but then he did so well to fight back. And I think Ken Doherty was on. He said before the decider, you'd make Kyren a massive favourite for this. I don't know if you can have a massive favourite in a decider, can you really? But I could understand what you're saying. But then great stuff from later win it. So yeah, it was an incredible start to the tournament.
It really was. And we were sort of swapping messages, weren't we? And uh, my feeling is I want to try and cut down on saying that snooker's easy from the armchair. So you can tick me off if you hear me say it more than this time. So easy from the armchair. But I was sort of thinking Kyron was doing that classic thing where he was trying a bit hard and he was trying to make things happen all the time when he was losing those frames. Total human nature. And you can times that human nature by 100 when you're talking about the world champion on the first day of his defence. But he felt things slipping away. He mentioned afterwards everything was going against me. I felt he pushed the boat out a bit too much, and that gave Lay even sort of more licence to, more chances, frankly, in the literal sense. But you're right, it was great drama. That design is brilliant. It's sort of unfair on the champion, but that's why it's brilliant design, because they're on a hiding to nothing, aren't they? The first day, they have to do it. The benefit is when they do get through, they get virtually a week off. So it's brilliant from that point of view, but it's just an absolute hiding to nothing. If we didn't have that curse narrative, it would still be a horrible thing to try and have to do it all. He's out with 16 days of the tournament left. And it's happened so often. It's a barking mad thing, really. But great work from Lepe fan. Got to give him credit. I mean, I think I did hear, because it was one of those in the office where bit of a niche thing I like, Dave. I could hear Dave Hendon I had on, and I could hear him say, well, I'm pretty sure I heard him say, well, what's been lost here a little bit in the build-up is that Lay has won a ranking event. I think that's a bit true, really. Sometimes we can be a little bit like, oh, this unknown guy. Well, actually, he's done pretty well. But I also liked Phil. I could hear the screams coming. What's that? It was Casualty. No one had bothered to turn it off the telly from an earlier event, so I couldn't quite hear the snooker properly. I love it when normal telly is still on after sport. Very niche, I know, but it was good stuff and just a top start to the tournament, really. And then, well, let's go on and talk about some other results. Zhao Gudong, Matthew Selt, 2 centuries and 5 half centuries for Zhao. I mean, Selt, when he did get in, looked okay. You know, he made 2 centuries himself, including a 1-3-1. But we're going to talk about loads and loads of matches that went all the way and were dramatic. This wasn't one of them, was it, Phil? This was pretty much a no contest. Zhao was taking control of it relatively early and just going on to get a sort of comfortable win.
Yeah, exactly. And it was very encouraging for Zhao Guidong because he's had such a good, consistent season all the way through. It's been excellent. And you sort of worry if you get to the Crucible, completely different kind of pressure coming in as the seed for the first time and um, the favourite in this match. He's not been at the Crucible for a long time, since 2018, I think, and he's only won one game there before. So not got much form there, but he carried on the form of the season and just was clearly the better player and deserved to win. Yeah, Selt had some good moments, but it was a reasonably straightforward one for Zhao, and he looks very threatening. You know, he's been to I think he won that tournament, and he's been to 3 other ranking semis and 3 quarterfinals coming into this. So he's won an awful lot of games, and he's going to be difficult to beat. And we'll go on to his game in the second round next, and he's got a tough one. But yeah, I was really impressed with him because we saw last season Zhang Anda having a similarly like impressive breakthrough season and turning up in the Crucible and completely crumbled. But Zhao's done the opposite. It was really good.
I mean, our predictions, I say our in a media sense, have mostly been hopeless. And I certainly put myself right at the top of that list in terms of hopelessness. But I did say that, Zhao might go under the radar a bit. And as you say, he started his second round match and he's got a tough one, but he started okay in it. We'll come to that a bit later. Bit unfair for me to always have the first word. So maybe Mark Williams, Wu Yiza can be yours first.
Yeah, I mean that was a great game as well. We've not been let down by many so far. Really good battle. It was always going to be sort of the old wily old fox against the young gunslinger sort of narrative, and sort of how it went. Yeah, Wu was knocking in all these incredible long pots, making big breaks. But Williams was doing doing a fair bit himself, especially at the end, and his quality showed through so impressively at the end. Yeah, Mark won 10-8 if we didn't know that already. But at 8 all, no, he was 8-7 down, and he made it 8 all, then made a couple of great breaks. Amazing long red. I think that was in the final frame or the ultimate one. But yeah, brilliant stuff. Considering he's saying he can barely see stuff, he's not been playing with his contact lenses. He gave up on that experiment, thinking he's better without for now. But he's planning this lens replacement surgery after the tournament. I did warn him. I felt a bit bad because he said that in the press conference. And I said Anthony Hamilton had that, and he said it ruined his career. So just so you know, to have a good think before you do that. But yeah, even without any sort of help for his eyes, it was very very good from Mark Williams. But also a strong performance from Wu. I know we're seeing a lot of him, and he gets talked about a lot, but he's only 21 still, long way to go, and he keeps impressing even in a defeat there.
Yeah, it was always a hard game. I thought Mark was on a bit behind into nothing. I was quite impressed he won it actually because Williams had a bit of a nothing to lose because you're right because of his age and relative massive inexperience. Talking about nearly 3 decades younger than Mark. What did Mark say to your point there? Knowing him, oh thanks very much. No.
Well, yeah, it was a bit like that, but he sounded like he's just going to do it because he says he feels like he just has to do something because his eyes have been deteriorating so much. He says if he doesn't do anything, then he just won't be able to play relatively soon. So he feels like it's a gamble worth taking. But I did tell him to at least speak to the sheriff first because he does not have good reviews of his experience with that treatment.
Oh, that's fair enough. Well, Hossein Vafai, Barry Hawkins next, and Hossein's obviously underway, isn't he, with his second round match? We'll come to that a little bit later. But yeah, 10-9 against Barry Hawkins. Again, really impressed. I mean, what I think I said, or we said generally, it would depend on what sort of Hossein turned up. It was a good Hossein, really on it, and that's kind of you felt what he needed to be against Barry because Barry doesn't really dip below certain levels or rarely. So he's just got his scoring boots on. 4 centuries from Hossein. after 5 centuries in his Judgment Day match. So it's just, yeah, really excellent work. And I guess we're just, there's always that feeling with Hossein Mafai that the best of him we haven't quite seen in snooker yet. Do you know what I mean? Are you feeling the same, Phil? It's like, and if we see that, a little bit watch out the rest, eh?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. He's sort of been talked about so strongly as like a winner to come. And I know he won the shootout, but like a more significant ranking tournament. And he hasn't quite been showing that. He hasn't had the best season. He's had issues, with injury, but it says this neck injury and shoulder injuries is still going on, but it's not bothering him too much with all these centuries he's knocking in. And it was a great break at the end. And he's just a great person to have in tournaments because he does it his own way, does unusual things, doing that big scream after
Oh
getting to
God.
50 in the final frame. There was a lot of points still to be won before that match was over. But we like characters. We want people doing unique things, and that was certainly unique. I've never seen anyone do that. I did wonder. I mean, I enjoy things like that, but I did wonder, if someone on the other table was on the backswing when that happens, but it wouldn't be so pleased. But I suppose you could say that about when he'd won the match. But yeah, no, it was very impressive. Disappointing for Barry after such a good season. He wasn't bad, and he nearly won the game, but it wasn't at his best. But yeah, fair play to Hussein. And as I say, the longer he stays in tournaments, the more likely we're going to get an interesting story out of him. So the more the merrier from Hussein Mafai.
I remember decades ago now speaking to the dad of a very, very good, still a great old schoolmate of mine. And we're talking about quite a sensitive political issue. And I was asking him where he sort of stands on it. And he says, well, it depends who I'm talking to. And that always stuck with me. I thought, interesting. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure that happens a lot in the political world. But the reason I'm saying that is it's kind of like, even in our own much more sort of trivial world of sport, it sometimes depends on what hat you're wearing. And of course, wearing the sort of punditry hat, you sort of have to say, oh, come on, Hossein, tick him off. You can't be doing that. And Dennis Taylor was certainly like that with that shout out. And look, we can't encourage it. I mean, people that were there, I saw on social media saying it was, the other table was a bit sort of shocked. I mean, there's a pretty
Yeah.
wild shout. Shouldn't have done it. But of course, wearing the sort of human hat and the sort of maybe the more fan in me and the sort of like the understanding that emotions run high, you kind of get it. But yeah, I mean, some nights you're sort of like, I mean, snooker's been actually gripping throughout, but sometimes you'll sort of find yourself in a bit of a slumber. That must have woken a few people up on their settees, Phil.
Yeah, well, I was in the press room, and none of us really knew what had happened. Didn't know if it was someone in the audience or what, or it was such an odd noise. I didn't even know if it was something else that had happened. But yeah, we had to sort of wind back on our screens, and yeah, it was confusing. But yeah, he apologized to Barry afterwards. He didn't mean any disrespect, but that's the crucible. That's what, we big up these tournaments and the tension of it and how important they are. So we can't be too surprised when, emotions, the pressure builds inside them and they've got to come out somehow. It doesn't often happen like that, but it's got to happen some way.
Absolutely. Well, I loved Chris Wakeling, Neil Robertson. That was the absolute epitome of crucible drama, really. Wakeling 7-2 up after the first session, really. Robertson not at the races. Surprised. Robertson, we know he's about his issues, but a lot of people expected him to go a long way, no question here. But I've liked Wakeling generally. He's been on brilliant form. He's carried that on very much in the second round. We'll come to that later. But I've also liked the way he's talked off the table. And he was really sort of like, definitive when he came in the interview after sealing a 10-8 win and said, look, I said to everyone around me, I said to my friends, Neil can get 4 and get back to 7-6, no problem. He's that good. That's what happened. So he's on his guard against it. But yeah, when Robertson came storming back to 7-7, 8-8, I think John Powell was on duty saying it looks like being the decider. Obviously, there was an element of Neil being the man to get behind. But I suppose that classic tale, once you get level, it's a different energy again. Wakeling, so impressive to then win 10-8. I thought that was brilliant. Robertson's woes go on. I mean, we're the ultimate broken record, aren't we, Phil, when it comes to Neil at this tournament. It's a shame. It's one of those things. He just can't get it done. But as he often starts very well, this time he didn't even do that, bless him.
Oh yeah, I don't think he played too badly, and there's some great bits in there. Look good going back to 7-7, and yeah, I mean, the bookmakers would have made him the clear favourite then. But I thought that break that Chris made in the 15th, it was 90, I think, was so good because he really did look gone before that. He didn't say he felt that bad, and like you said, he was thinking positively and just expected Neil to play well and was ready to deal with it. But he did look in a bit of trouble. So to make that really good break to go back ahead and then wasn't behind again. no, he was never behind, but he looked good from there on in. Yeah, he's playing. He's been playing well for a while, and he's been talking so positively. Sort of reminds me of a bit of Neil Robertson, really. How sort of
Yeah.
looking on the bright side he is of things, and it tends to work. Kyren's a bit like that. You talk yourself. I mean, they're all brilliant players anyway, but you can sort of help yourself by talking yourself up even further. And Chris is in that sort of camp, and yeah, he's unquestionably now in the sort of top player, not right at the elite, the very very elite, but he's in that top player bracket now because he's beaten other top players on the biggest stage. So you can't ask for more than that.
You're right. And I was just thinking, what tournament was it recently that I spoke to? It was before the Masters for Sporting Life, and I was really struck by him saying stuff he would never have said by his own admittance 2, 3 years ago. Like even after defeats in tournaments, there's no sort of moping around maybe like they used to have been. Oh, what did I get wrong? It's like, well, it didn't happen. I did my best. Now, what next time? I'll go and win the next match or try and win the next tournament. Very much so. You're nice line there from you that it sort of reminiscent of Neil himself. Um, Maybe I'll let you talk about Xiao Tong, Jack Jones. I mean, obviously, Xiao, my goodness. I mean, the break, I'll tell you the breaks 84, 91, 142, 70, 76, 61, 70, 55, and 87. So he's queuing okay.
Yeah, he's scary when he's got a chance. It looks like you can't really give him a chance. He's not the best tactical safety player. I don't think he's bad. I think it's tempting to sort of go overboard the other way when someone's so good at breaks, at break building. You can sort of go overboard and say, well, they'll not manage it in the safety stakes. He can handle himself. Um, but yeah, it looks like if you give him half an opportunity, he'll be taking it, and he can knock in long balls to get himself opportunities. So yeah, scary stuff. Jones looked like the kind of guy that might be able to give him trouble. I don't think Jones played badly. He made some good breaks when he got it himself, but there's so much pressure to take your opportunities when you're playing against someone in such good form. It's difficult, but yeah, very very impressive from Zhao. It's going to take someone really making it very 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 difficult and yeah, slow him down, keep him in the long grass. But it's easier said than done when, he can float in these long balls. And Ronnie O'Sullivan made a good point. A lot of time when players take on difficult long reds, they're playing to leave the white back in bulk just in case they miss it. He just does it to get on the black every time because he's so confident. And it is risky, but he's playing so well. That's why he seems to be clearing up frames in no time at all. So yeah, it's scary stuff, and he's going to take some stopping.
Yeah, certainly is. Mark Allen 10, Bang Zhengji 6. We're clouded a lot by what's happening to Mark in the second round. We'll come to that. We will tell you he's in deep, deep trouble in his second round match. And and that is one of the great understatements, frankly. We can say, can't we, that he, but which is surprising in the sense that I thought it was a say perfect first round win. But I was just about an hour or so ago thinking about preparing a bit for this episode. I thought, well, we always say that it's good to get a match, but it didn't do Kyren any harm to win 10-1 against Dominic Dale last year. So it's different ways of doing it. But I thought Fan played well. I mean, Mark made a point of saying that. I mean, there's 2 centuries and 6 half centuries from Allen, but Fan himself scored a century and 6 half centuries. So I thought Mark looked really on it, and I thought he made me surprised. Could be putting words and thoughts in his head here, but I felt he surprised himself a bit by kind of how much he turned up and really applied himself. He always applies himself, but maybe just how well he played, compared to these past weeks and months when he hasn't quite been on it. But I thought, as I say, we'll come to the second round, but he got a good win against Fan. They credit to Fan. I mean, he'll play, he'll win matches playing like that at the Crucible, but in the end, he's playing a top player. He's on the end of a 6-10 loss.
Yeah, it's one of the, I thought it was a really excellent match. It probably won't go down and greatly remembered for that long, but it was really good. Fan started off so well, and it was like Alan looked in trouble because he hadn't won a match since the Welsh Open, which sounds mad, but that's how poor he's
Mm.
been. And so for him to, I agree with you. It looked like the ideal first rounder in terms of he had to play well and did when he was under pressure to do so. And he was speaking pretty well afterwards. So yeah, things were looking very good for Mark Allen. We'll get to the point where they're not looking so good now, but yeah, I was really impressed with both players there. Fan's really weird one, isn't he? He won that tournament 3 years ago now, where he beat Ronnie in the final, and then has been well, completely inconsistent since. He's certainly not carried on that trajectory, but he's clearly in there when he's hitting the ball well. He's excellent. But yeah, it was a really good win for Alan. But that it may be the end quite soon after that, though. Oh, you're on mute there, Nick.
Brilliant. There we are. A deliberate mistake, Phil. We always need one of those, don't we? Apologies for that, folks. John. Next is John Higgins, Joe O'Connor, and 10-7 for Higgins, and I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a good match. Classic uh, Higgins, really, in the sense that it was. He just, I mean, we say it so often, but it almost like, oh, thanks, John. You just proved the point we always make that you're not great in the first session. We get out of it. How did John Higgins do? Oh, he lost 5-4. What? I thought he was really not at it. Yeah, he wasn't, but he won the last one, didn't he? That was so important. It was 6-3 or 5-4. We know that's just an enormous amount of difference. And then, I mean, it just carried on being good, really. Joe O'Connor carried on playing pretty well. To be honest, it was 7-7, sort of anybody's. Then John stepped up a gear. I was quite impressed by that, actually, helped by breaks of 114 and 59. I don't want to labour on this. I did find the interviews a bit greater. I know you don't quite agree. We've talked about that, and that's absolutely fine. And a lot of people don't. Some people do. I mean, John said he was more emotional, didn't he, than he's ever been in Sheffield. And I must admit, I did find it quite odd that they were puzzled by that and asking why. And that was across the sort of TV coverage, really, and not just one sort of network or channel. I mean, it was widely documented that John's father-in-law had become sadly ill in the days before the tournament. Much better news now, we're glad to say, health-wise. So, I mean, that was obviously going to be the way, the huge effect for John. We know he's a big family man. But listen, my feeling was that maybe that wasn't just known, but we all missed stuff. But in the end, I had to say, it was handled sensitively by everybody. So that was great. And what a crucible customer, Phil. I mean, I felt sorry for Joe O'Connor. Again, he'd have beaten a lot of players, with that kind of performance, knuckling down like that. But Higgins, that old master, gets a 10-7 win.
Yeah, I spoke to Joe afterwards, and he seemed a bit sort of confused as to how he lost. Really, he felt he was scoring better. Felt like he was a better player, but just at the end, and that's the kind of match that John wouldn't have won not very long ago. I think he's talking about how much calmer and more relaxed he feels since that event in China that he won, and then backed it up again at the Tour Championship. And he said just in those situations before that, his mind was going at a million miles a minute, just couldn't think straight. But now it's gone back to what he used to be like, and he can see it all clearly, knows what he's doing, and gets over the line. He did so brilliantly there. So yeah, it was impressive. But I'm always impressed with O'Connor. I think he's excellent. I think he's got a big future. Yeah, no, I did disagree slightly. I like that interview just because I get what you're saying. Um, but I guess the question of why got that good answer from John either way, and also it was. And then he told that quite touching story about how he'd gone for dinner with his son, and that reminded how he'd been there with his dad. And maybe we wouldn't have got that if we hadn't sort of asked what seems like an obvious question. But because that seemed to be when I spoke to him afterwards, that was the bit he was talking about more in terms of why he was really feeling it. But it was obviously everything together. But that yeah, I found that story really moving. So yeah, maybe it was an odd way of getting there, but we got a nice answer in the end from it. So it sort of worked for me.
Fair dues. And I have to say, talking about memory lane for John, we were quite careful at Sporting Life over the story, because of events that transpired, but when to put it up and the wording of it. But I did, I think the piece has some nice little bits on it. I think I said about that niche thing about John playing on table two, and then we got some very niche members of the snooker public. I don't mean to use that word cliche snooker family. Oh God, no. Snooker public, and they would say, "Oh, actually, he played on table two in 2019," and then again, as oh no, I'll open up a bloody rabbit hole there. But one thing I liked was Higgins saying, "No, I'm not going to bother about this thing about you can't win the tournament." Hendry reminded me that you beat me. That's Hendry talking to Higgins in the British Open final in '98, 27 years ago, and then won the World Championship. I had a look back at dates. In those days, the qualifiers weren't just before, so it wasn't even like the 2 week gap of the tour. It was literally a week before, I think. So John won that final in '98 on the Sunday against Hendry, and the following Saturday, pretty right I'm saying this, pretty sure I'm right, the World Championship started, John won it. So he has some nice history there himself. Let's move on. I'm conscious of time. I think we're doing okay. Ding Junhui Zach Shirty, Ding winning 10-7. Loved this match, actually. Didn't at the start. I found it horrible because we don't have favourites. We're not allowed them. But we wanted Zach to play well, didn't we? Both of us. And most people in snooker, I think, but certainly the ones that heard him on here, he was brilliant recently. But he looked like he wanted to be anywhere else but the Crucible. He went 4-0 down. Interval came at a great time, thank God. And then he did do himself justice, both in the end of that session when he kept himself in the match, and then when they came back for the second session, 4 centuries in 5 frames. Pretty sure I'm right. That's a record, isn't it, for a debutant? 4 centuries. Yeah. Great effort. Made Ding work hard for the win. Bit of a shame. He pushed the boat out a bit too much right at the end, Zach. Again, that's the kind of player he is. I think he'll admit that himself, that he may have gone for one sort of hard chance too many. But Ding finished well. Breaks of 1-1-6 and 75 from him. 10-7 for Ding. I just liked the match. I thought it had loads, Phil. It was a real sort of treat on a number of different levels.
Yeah, it ended up being great. I mean, it didn't look like it was going to be at the start when Zach did look like he was struggling with the occasion, the situation, playing at the Crucible for the first time. I mean, I got to the Crucible just by coincidence, just in that first mid-session interval. And as I walked through from stage door, they were just getting ready to go back out, and Zach was waiting there, and he looked seriously nervous. I thought he looked like he might be sick, and I just said good luck to him. And he thankfully he settled down after that. And made a brilliant game of it. I mean, those 4 centuries is absolutely superb. He's so quick and aggressive when he gets going. And I'm glad people got to see how good he is because he's an excellent player and he's on the way up. But yeah, it was impressive from Ding to sort of not get rattled by that because that was a real barrage for a while. And Ding played well at the end. But yeah, no one's going to be happy walking away losing the first game, but he will be. He should be proud of himself for how he overcame those nerves and played so well, and made a real showed what he can do, which was the main thing.
Absolutely. I think we are probably the most inspirational characters in snooker. That's a dramatic call, but as soon as we cross the paths of players, things happen. We'll come to Ben Willison soon. That's further proof. Zach Surtees, up against it, gets a good luck message from Phil Haig. Oh, wait a minute, he started playing well. That's funny, isn't it? I mean, if the journalism work ever dries up, certainly won't in your case, I'm sure, there could be, some kind of sort of psychologist, that kind of route. I'm going to see you laughing away there. Probably, just going along with the nonsense, aren't you? See Joy Wee, David Gilbert. I mean, you know Dave perhaps better than most. I'll go to you from that. It was a sort of mid-match burst of frames that was decisive there for C.
Yeah. Dave, I think felt he was a bit unlucky there, but I mean, there was that one incredible. I can't remember what frame it is, but the clip did the rounds. That incredible pot that proceeded from the bolt cushion,
unbelievable.
Where you sort of the cue ball sort of flew across the through the air across the table, and I mean, Gilbert, it was one of those where you have to just say what an amazing shot, but you still feel unlucky because how many times out of 100 would you pull that off? But yeah, C was great in that middle bit, wasn't he? He won sort of 5 out of 6 frames with breaks. And Dave probably felt he was a bit out of it by the end, but he made back-to-back tons to make it interesting. But yeah, C's just really good at the Crucible, isn't he? He's not got the consistency elsewhere, but in his young Crucible career, he's won a lot of matches. More matches than much more experienced players have ever managed to win at the Crucible, weirdly. So yeah, he likes it there. He's got great memories. And now that part of the draw has opened up a little bit, he's got a good chance to go deep again.
Absolutely. And we're rattling through the first round matches. We've got Sean Murphy, Daniel Wells next. We should pause, though, first and just say you are listening here to the Talking Snooker podcast with Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf. The World Championship is coming up to a week old and it is giving us some great drama. It's been an absolutely fascinating opening to the event. And I thought Sean Murphy against Daniel Wells. I mean, Sean looked absolutely terrific. Won 10-4. I mean, Joe Johnson said that. I mean, others said they thought Xiaoxi and Tong May had pushed it, but Joe said he thought it was the best he's seen anyone at the tournament so far. I mean, he just looked peerlessly good, Murphy, at times. 3 centuries, 7 half centuries. Sean made a point of saying that Wells played well. He did actually, only 3 centuries himself. I mean, Murphy was full of praise for his opponent, the way he conducted himself, and I think that's right to say that. But yeah, Sean, my goodness. A lot of good people in the game tipped Sean. I think probably a few of us are wishing we had now. I mean, I was aiming that way a little while ago, but I just thought those two heavy defeats. It was a bit sort of worrying for a Murphy tip, but yeah, long way to go, of course. But I just thought he couldn't have made a better start form-wise. You look marvellous, Phil.
Yeah, really, really good. I mean, that day where all those games finished on Wednesday, there was a string of good performances, and Murphy was the first one. Yeah, looked superb and did what we talk about what the seeds want from a draw, and they probably want sort of a slightly nervy debutant. And you're right. Wells did play well. He made 3 centuries himself. He was pushing to match Surety's record, which he'd only set the day before or whenever it was. But
Yeah.
Murphy went out there and dominated and really sort of made it unbelievably difficult for Dan. And yeah, thoroughly deserved win. And he was he was very pleased with it, as he should be afterwards. And I suppose what was maybe like you're right, those two heavy defeats before, but his second round tie is extremely difficult, which may have been putting some people off tipping
Mm.
him. But of course, if he carries on playing like this, um, he will fancy his chances, whoever he plays.
Yes, of course, he's got Judd Trump, hasn't he? My goodness, we'll come to that. Well, don't worry if you didn't see all of Pang Jung-soo, Zhang Anda, Phil. I'm sending you a video now. You know how much I think of you. End of season gift for you. And all I've got to say is, when you're whiling away long summer days, tuning in and watching it, just think about your old mate. It's an absolute pleasure. I mean, I'm flippant, of course. I thought there was more chance of seeing Halley's Comet above Sheffield than the match getting done in the allotted time that afternoon. But Zhang sort of fell away horribly, I thought. But then Pang did play well in the end, breaks of 58, 102, 55, and 65. I'm being flippant. I enjoyed some of it, actually, because it's sometimes about gritty match play snooker. But yeah, it was a bit hard work at time, but Pang got a good 10-7 win. I mean, that's two horrible crucibles in a row for Zhang now, isn't it?
Yeah, he was really poor last year. And that, yeah, it's not a terrible result. Pang's a really good player. I don't know what the odds were, but it would have been reasonably even beforehand. Um, but yeah, you're right. He fell away at the end there, and Pang capitalised impressively actually after it had got very sticky. And it looked, yeah, you're right. It was getting closer and closer to Ronnie's match starting, wasn't it? It was that session, and it looked like no way they were going to get done. There was definitely going to be a back later that night, but Pang burst for the line after being stuck in the mud for quite a while. Yeah, and I like Pang. He's a really good player. He's certainly not as eye-catching as a C or a Wu or someone like that, but very methodical and gets the job done. And Zhang, yeah, it's strange. Like he had that unbelievable burst out of nowhere, really, and maybe it's looking he's going to sort of return back to the relative obscurity from whence he came. But he's a great player when he's going well. Made a 147 at the UK, didn't he, this season? But he seems to just have um, off days like reasonably regularly. So worrying for him. But yeah, a good one for Pang. He continues his sort of march up the rankings, which has been steady but impressive.
Absolutely. Just thought about it now. What I was just noting down. We sometimes talk about the unsung people, unsung heroes, if you like. That's a bit strong, but unsung characters of the tournament. Hats off to security stuff. The staff there, the stewards, for those quick turnarounds like that day, getting everyone out, everyone in. People like Mark Williams, I know there, Marshy, Carl. Get to know these guys when you go over the years. They do a sterling job. Getting everyone quickly but efficiently out and in, and it was underway for the afternoon. That's right, it was Ronnie. And that's the match that's next in our roundup here. Ronnie O'Sullivan against Ali Carter. Well, I thought of Jimmy White's words again. He said about Marcus Campbell matching 13, Ronnie started poorly. Marcus Campbell didn't take advantage. And it sort of went from there. Ali Carter's a much better player than Marcus Campbell was. But it was kind of similar. And Hendry, who I think has been peerless, by the way, in terms of nailing the mood in the arena. He said as early as the second frame he thought Ali had missed a trick. He should have gone 2-0 up, Ali. Big word should in sport, I know, but he won the first frame. He was dominant in the second. Felt like he let Ronnie off the hook. I know Ali did well to get back from 5-2 to 5-4, but ultimately Ronnie was ahead. And then it was not a match at all the next day. Ali not on the races, breaks of 59, 117, 74, 123, 131 from Ronnie. And wow, you also hesitate to say things like the draw's opening up. He could get turned over next, Ronnie, but it's opening up a bit for him. And I think our good friend in the game, that great judge Gary Moss, said after the first day, I noticed on social media, he thought there was more things to be encouraging about for Ronnie fans than discouraging. I agreed with that, even at 5-4. But at 10-4, his fans would have been greatly encouraged.
Yeah, that second session was it looked like he just clicked back into gears and it was superb. 3 tons in 5 frames and a couple of other breaks. Yeah, it was his demeanor and everything was quite encouraging, wasn't it, in the first session, even though he wasn't playing very well. Um, just how engaged and switched on. Even the fact he just sort of shook hands instead of fist bumping made it look a bit more serious than he has done sometimes in the past. He did make that century in the first session, even though it was sticky stuff elsewhere. I think it was his long game that was the concern with his new cue there. He was missing some long shots by quite a long way. But yeah, that all that is forgotten about though after that blitz through the second session and storming for the line. Um, yeah, Carter afterwards, he was sort of quite insistent that it was all sort of poor running the balls and he was quite unlucky, but I did think he was quite poor as well. There was little bits in there, but he didn't play well. And he often doesn't against Ronnie, to be fair. He's only in a big match, he's only beaten him that once. He has a terrible record against him, which, there's no shame in that. It's Ronnie O'Sullivan, but quite often Carter will not produce his best against him, and that was the same here, really.
Yeah, we call a lot of things wrong, but I think I said that. I think Selby was one of those when he was on the radio that morning during the draw saying, "Oh, it was not good for Ronnie." I was never sure about that. I thought actually it was quite good for Ronnie. Because he'll sort of be up for it because it's that grudge match element, but also he has such a great career record. I mean, WST. I mean, you can't blame them. The next in the rivalry. Problem is, it's not really a rivalry, is it?
Yeah.
Because Ronnie just wins them all. Well, he's calling Ali a good lad now.
Yeah.
They're like mates. Great stuff. Yeah, good stuff from Ronnie. I thought. Good stuff from Judd Trump too, Phil. Perhaps you talk about that one against Zhao Yulong, winning 10-4. I say good stuff. That's bloody wonderful stuff on the second evening when it came back. Burst of frames from Judd. He just looked again, just tantalisingly good.
Yeah, yeah, superb. He was good in that first session, but even though he finished it, 6-3, I think he might have been a bit frustrated because he could easily have won it
Mm.
sort of 7-2, 8-1, really. He was certainly the better player. And obviously he won it, so that's fine. But it could have been a very short match. And then he made 1-1-3, 1-1-4, 1-1-4 straight away. And then it looked like he was going to pull off um, the win before the mid-session interval because he laid that amazing snooker. It was one of those most satisfying ones where he sent the white across 2 cushions, but and then back across behind the black. And then Zhao did actually really well to come off 1 cushion with the extended rest. And it looked horrible shot to play, but he did well to get over the line there. But then, yeah, it was a stay of execution because Judd made another century straight after the break. So, yeah, very impressive stuff. It felt like Judd's flown under the radar here a bit. It's very confusing one with Judd actually because he's the world number one. He was the bookmaker's favourite before the tournament, and I've just barely heard anyone talk about him. I've not really heard anyone tip him. He's not been talked about much. It didn't help that he wasn't at the media day because he was ill, and also his first round game started so late. So it was almost just like this guy sort of wandered in, without anyone noticing. And it's Judd Trump, and he's knocking in loads of tons.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's ideal for him actually, and it looks that way because he played brilliantly. And yeah, I did ask him about that, and he said he did feel like it was a bit like that, but he's not bothered one bit. He's happy to be under the radar for as long as he can stay there. But it won't be long if he carries on playing like that.
I didn't quite think about it in those terms, but yeah, you offer a compelling case. I think he's had tonsillitis, doesn't he? Actually,
Yeah.
so that's a shame, but he seems to be over it, to a large extent and in good form, obviously. Luca Marcel, Ryan Day. I mean, sort of barking mad affair, really. I mean, Day was 5-1 up in early in frame seven, just looking like a completely dominant player in the match. Missed a simple pot to middle. I think it might have been a pink, and then it just all turned round. And that's why the experts tell us when you've got an advantage, you've got to hammer it home. You can't let the other guy get a sniff. That's what happened. You know, he got himself back into it for 5-4. And the next day, I mean, it was just maverick stuff, particularly from Vassell. Just that there was that extraordinary sequence of sort of flukes and mad shots that I loved on the colours. And yeah, I mean, I know that the pundits gave him a bit of a hard time, didn't they, Phil? John Parrott particularly saying he's not just doesn't look like he's been grafting. But he was singing a bit of a different tune the next day, saying how exciting he was to watch and all this. But he's just a maverick, Luca, isn't he? He was posting pictures from Portugal up to maybe the day before the match. I mean, but he got a 10-7 win, and as ever with Luca, he did it his way.
He did. I love watching him. If I was like desperate for him to win, I probably wouldn't love watching him. If I've had some money on him or whatever, because he didn't do what you would call the right shot all the time. But he's fascinating to watch because anything can happen at any time, and he does get a lot of flukes. He must be very annoying to play against when he's doing that because he hits the ball so hard and flying around everywhere. But it's just so different. A lot of I feel like the pundits sometimes do get a bit almost frustrated and almost a bit annoyed with him because there is sort of obviously there's different styles of play, but the sort of parameters of styles of play are quite narrow, really. Even the sort of attacking players, they're not a million miles away from the less attacking players. Everyone basically plays similar-ish shots. Luca just seems like he's rips the rule book up completely, and he's playing things that these guys can't even predict. They don't know why he's doing it. But that's interesting, and the fact he can sort of win games and he won the World Championship in this way, I find it just a brilliant watch. How far he can go. The problem with it is he has to be. Well, he didn't actually have to I was going to say he has to be so on it to go far playing like that. 'Cause it can go wrong so quickly. He wasn't really on it there. Ryan really just fell away, and he looks, sort of not confident in his game. And actually, Steve Davis was really interesting talking about it. It wasn't a mental thing. He said it was a technical thing that he needs to work on and sort out, and he thinks it's quite an easy thing to fix. Maybe it's both because I definitely don't think he's confident in himself really. But yeah, no, but enjoy watching Luca always, and it was sort of just a funny one, like not funny and weird. It was actually sort of like you're chuckling along watching that second session because you just don't know what's going to happen next. It was bizarre but enjoyable.
As you say, it certainly keeps the commentators, I saw you say, on their toes. I think Davies was saying that Ryan Dakey is moving too much. He said he's nothing still. I think that was right.
Yeah.
He looked really annoyed at times, Ryan Day, to the extent that I really thought after the match he'd sort of make a comment about how things went against him, or he just found it really frustrating. He didn't really. He was just said, I'm just not playing well enough. But there we go. Ben Wollaston, Mark Selby, bloody hell. We could have just done an episode on this match in itself, Phil. Obviously, Mark Selby's having issues. We have this new tip. That's a big factor. I mean, I thought it was classic Selby a bit, that old Higgins thing, to get out the first session 5-4 up. Didn't look particularly great. Wollaston looked the better when they resumed again, really. Did you see? I think you probably did, if not live, the recording. One of the most outrageous frames you'll ever see when it was just pink and black left, pink on the pocket, black totally safe. How Selby won that within 5 minutes was just unbelievable. You thought he might have gone on from there, but again, Ben, looked the likelier player. Then when he gets towards the line, Wollaston missed so many chances. I thought it's one of those you can't keep missing chances like this. Selby's probably going to pounce eventually. But no, credit to Wollaston. He got a 10-8 win. He said he can't believe it. Never thought, he'd see the day really. Not only a win at the Crucible, but a win against his friend and one of the greats of the game in Mark Selby. And again, it's talking snooker. Players come on here. They're guests on here. They're doing okay, maybe not firing. They turn into Superman.
Yeah, well, yeah, this message to any players that think they need a little boost in form. You're always welcome. We're happy to talk to you on here. But yeah, I mean, the talk is about Selby, but it's brilliant stuff from Ben. I guess the two longest odds in the first round would have been Wollaston and Lepe Fan, wouldn't they? I think that's right in saying, and they both won. So it's a fabulous effort. Yeah, Selby wasn't at his best. He still has, he made 2 tons in there. He made a 135, and yeah, and pulled off some big escapes from frames. But yeah, the tip thing is weird. I mean, these guys know what they're doing. They've done it a million times, but it seems like a big mistake to sort of get that wrong just before the World Championship. Obviously, it is a mistake. He didn't mean to do it, but frustrating for him after such a good season. And he was talking how felt like he'd regressed a bit. And maybe it's just the Crucible and what it does to you, but they're sort of getting in his own way. He kept saying just overthinking things that he felt like he'd got over that quite a lot since last year when it was a real problem. But it feels like that had happened again, which you don't see much emotion at all from Mark Selby at the table. There was one frame where he conceded by sort of chucking the ball across the table at some pace.
Mm.
And you could see how the whole situation was getting to him because you usually get absolutely nothing out of him. Certainly nothing negative. So yeah, not a good one for him, but yeah, just big congratulations to Ben. I mean, what a story this is. He hadn't been there for all that time. He was saying on here, wasn't he, how he found that record embarrassing, how long it had been since the Crucible. So to get back there and then to beat Mark Selby, even though they're friends, he'll be delighted about it.
He certainly will. Many people went for Kyren. Many people went for Sean. They're both went for Mark Selby. Sorry, Sean. They're both out. So there we go. It's a hell of a first week, and yeah, brilliant drama. We're just absolutely loving it, aren't we, Phil? And second round then. These are the matches coming up. Chris Wakelin, Mark Allen, Mark Williams, Hossein Bafai, Lei Pei Fan against Zhao Xingtong, John Higgins against Xiao Gudong, Ronnie O'Sullivan, Pang Jung-soo, Si Hee, Ben Wollaston, Luca Purcell, Ding Junhui, and Sean Murphy, Judd Trump. Have you fired up the Talking Snooker video printer, Phil?
Yes.
Let's go to it. We can tell you already that last night, this is Thursday night, John Higgins for Xiao Gudong 4. Didn't see too much of that. Saw a bit of Henry saying that John looked a bit sort of put off his game a bit by some good play from Xiao, and it looked like a very nice, interesting start. So fascinating match, perhaps in progress there. Well, we've got to say the big story is Chris Wakelin against Mark Allen. I mean, no one would have seen this coming. We just thought a bit of a nip and tuck match, really. But it's Allen on the verge of defeat, isn't he? He's 12-4 behind in that match, which is quite a story. Wakelin just needing one more frame to clinch victory. But we have, in the last hour or so, seen a 147 from Allen, haven't we? So some consolation in what seems to be defeat, almost certain defeat for him. And it was the yellow, wasn't it? I've just seen it a little while ago. Wakelin sort of grimacing, oh no, can he see the yellow? He can, brilliant. So yeah, I mean the tournament that's had most things in its first week, just not a maximum. We now got that as well.
Yeah, it was amazing because the score was 10-2 to Wakelin, and Allen hadn't potted a ball in the three previous frames. He looked, he was scrapping to just avoid being beaten with a session to spare, and then Wakelin a mad 147. There were some crazy shots in there. He played one plant that really opened the Reds at one point, which was superb. Yeah, I mean they're all good, aren't they? Maximums, but that was a notably good one. Chap in the crowd won 25 grand. Congratulations to him from that promotion from the sponsors. But yeah, it was brilliant. And then sort of the next frame was a sort of tight, scrappy one that went down to the colours, and Wakelin won that. So that sort of ended all that momentum. To be fair, Wakelin looks like he's going to win, and he played brilliantly. So fair play to him. But yeah, lovely moment for Mark, the 15th one at the Crucible ever. And I think that makes Alan the first player ever to make a maximum in all three of the Triple Crown events. So that is a very cool little bit of history for the pistol.
Wow. I feel like I'm a bit all over the place at this episode, but you're holding it together with lovely little lines like that, Phil Haig. Yeah, I didn't know that. Well, there are some good matches coming up as well. I mean, maybe a word about Wakelin generally. I mean, taking this big advantage after winning well first time. Top player. We say he's a different man from a year or two ago, but looking at genuine sort of threat and danger at the World Championship is the ultimate cementing of that, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if he completes this win as it looks like he's going to knock off Robertson Allen to get to the quarters for the first time. He never won a game at the Crucible before. So an amazing achievement. And he won't stop there. He won't be sort of resting on his laurels or thinking he's done his job. He's very, very confident and bullish about what he can achieve. And that is big trophy. So, he's won the shootout obviously before. If his next one was the World Championship, that would be some step up. Yeah, long way to go yet. But if he carries on playing as he is, then you can't rule it out. Stranger things have happened.
Absolutely. So coming up, Lei Pei Fan Zhao Xingtong. Many of us thought it would be Kyren Wilson Zhao Xingtong. It's not, of course, the first day shock, and Lei claiming that fine win. It'll be interesting to see if Shao can continue his blistering form that he's been showing in qualifying and in his first match at the tournament. Ronnie O'Sullivan, Pang Jung-soo. I mean, Ronnie could win with a session to spare, of course, but they're relatively rare. So what strikes me is it's a Saturday, Sunday, Monday match coming up. That means 10 successive days potentially for Ronnie if he's going to win the title. So that's, perhaps a factor. Ronnie won a World Championship match between the pair 2 years ago, but Pang had a win this season in the International Championship against Ronnie 6-4. Well, the hero of last night, Thursday night, Ben Woollerson, had got Si Jai-hee next. So that's be fascinating to see if Ben can continue, backing up what he did there. Luca Bassel, Ding Junhui. I remember seeing them play at Brentwood a couple of years ago. And yeah, look, the awful record that Luca had, but he did win at the Scottish Open, didn't he, just before Christmas? He finally got a win against Ding there. And then Sean Murphy, Judd Trump. Yeah, we don't need to sell that. Just a wonderful match. First ever match at the World Championship in 07. And they had a little bit of an exchange, didn't they? Because Murphy was doing the TV work with Judd came in. All a bit lovey-lovey, I thought. Not sure what Henry would have made of that if he saw it. It wasn't exactly, gunfight at the OK Corral.
Yeah, it was an odd situation, wasn't it, to have him on there? So Judd just sort of wandered in. And yeah, I mean, Murphy wouldn't have been anything other than impressed. So and that's how he spoke. Yeah, they've got a lot of respect for each other. They've played each other loads of times, 3 times at the Crucible. I think it's 2-1 to Sean in that record, but Judd's got a brilliant record against him recently. I think he's won his last 7. And I did ask Judd if that kind of thing, 7 in a row, is that just for the stats people, or is that something that he will be thinking about? A lot of players would say, "Oh no, it doesn't mean anything." He said, "No, he'll be thinking about that." So Judd is good for sort of giving you his honest take on things. He doesn't play things down. So that was good. And yeah, I mean that is must-see television. 3 sessions, yes, please.
Yeah, brilliant. We're going to go very soon. Actually, we're pretty much out of the action on the table. Bit of a spat between Kyren Wilson and Sean Murphy, of course, Phil, since we were last on air. Kyren was on TNT saying that funny Masters interview you all talked about wasn't unprovoked in January because Murphy did something unprofessional, in Kyren's words, before the evening session. Didn't say what it was. So then Sean had his say on his own 147 podcast, saying he didn't know what Kyren was referring to, was disappointed in Kyren's behaviour, and said he hadn't been a proper bloke, quote some bloke, unquotes, by addressing this before. Now, the latest is, you asked him a question, didn't you, yesterday, Sean? They're going to meet for coffee to try and resolve all this. Well, now all we need to do in the media is fix up our hidden cameras and microphones and record it all.
Yeah, I'm not sure when that coffee is going to be, because apparently Kyren has sort of done his duties with the BBC. I don't know if he's coming back or not. It might be a summer coffee. We'll see. But it's interesting. We just want to know. I mean, it's the way that came out. It was very odd, wasn't it, from Kyren saying and not saying, and then Sean saying he doesn't know. So yeah, it's probably very little. Yeah, we pinned him down to something happening in the practice room before they went back out. So I bet it's something and nothing really. But so it's going to be a big anticlimax when it does come out. But when they tease us like this, we've got to find out eventually. So I do want to know, but I'm not expecting it to be some absolutely salacious story or anything. It'd be probably something we'll be like, "Oh, was that it?" But we do want to know either way.
Yeah, a couple of life's more discerning characters pointed out it was a little bit like the thing you get on Facebook going back, maybe also Twitter now as well. And I like social media, so I've said that a number of times. Generally, certainly my corner of it. But that very cryptic thing that people do, they sort of hint at someone doing something, but they never actually say. It's full of sort of quick. It feels like you're on. You have to be Columbo half the time with when you're sort of dealing with sort of friends and think, oh, come on, yeah, you got to come out and say what it is really. I mean, you can't just sort of, oh, he did something, but I'm not going to say, because it's eventually going to come out. It all becomes funny and messy. But listen, gave us the story anyway. TV, got to say, very good generally. Hazel impeccable, of course. Got to say, I'm enjoying Rishi Prasad doing the interviews. I think he's very good. He's getting a lot out of players, and I think we're getting more out of players than we normally do. And that's because Rishi is very, very top level at doing that, and I think it shows. I see a lot of him on racing and other sports, and he's absolutely across it. I think he might do Wimbledon as well. So he does quite a lot of those kind of, they call them flash interviews, don't they? And I think he's really getting a lot out of players. I like the watch along, a bit of fun, wasn't it? I liked your little John Higgins line. I know you got some attention from that, or John's garb that night. What about Jimmy White? I'm a kid from Tooting. My dad was a carpenter, and the Stones played at my 50th birthday. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just Jimmy all over. I put that up, a little clip of that, and got absolutely loads of feedback, and a lot of people watching it. It was classic Jimmy. Unbelievable commitment from the BBC, by the way. Every night staying with the action on BBC Four, even nights when you think there's not, the most dramatic thing, all the way on the air. People tuning in for the film Priscilla last night, all about the life and times of Elvis and Priscilla Presley. Phil, they had to wait until gone midnight and not 10 p.m. So I think great commitment from the B.
Yeah, no, it's been good. I love the options that when in the tournaments you can flick between two, depending on if there's pundits you like, commentators you like. And yeah, I thought that watch along was way better than I was expecting. I didn't, it was a funny idea, wasn't it? Getting Ali McCoist and Darren Fletcher in. But I think that you could tell they genuinely are big snooker fans. Um, and yeah, they're getting the guys in. Chris Wakely was in, then John Higgins, Ronnie, Rianne was in there. And it was just nice chats. Yeah, they got some good little tidbits out of them. We got some good lines out of that. Ronnie was quite effusive that Judd's the clear favourite to win this, but he was then backing Zouslington to be world number one and world champion in the next 3 years. John Higgins was, there was quite a lot of football chat between John and Alan McManus and Ali, but yeah, it was just quite a nice watch actually. So yeah, an unexpected treat really that one. Enjoyed it.
Very much so. About to shoot off. I want to get a word from you, if that's okay, about the media day. It looked better than we've ever seen it before. I presume they're going to go forward and do this all the time now. The green carpet, how was it?
Yeah, really good, massive improvement. So yeah, so anyone who wasn't there, which I guess is most people, they've got the big screen has moved in Tudor Square to the end where the Winter Gardens is, and they put a stage in front of that. So then they had the players' pictures on there, and Rob Walker was on there, and they'd introduce him onto the stage, have a quick interview, and then they'd walk down this green carpet from the end of Tudor Square right the way to the Crucible, which was lined by fans at either side, and there were people getting autographs and selfies of people all the way down. Um, and then they'd get to the end and they'd do a little flash interview with someone World Snooker and they'd sign a wall and stuff. It just made it feel like a massive deal. And I think there were way more fans than they were expecting. It was really packed out in there. So it looked great. I think all the players liked it. There's some great photos. One lady had brought a dog and was just holding the dog up. And all the players stopped for a selfie with her, but mainly the dog. And there's some great photos of Mark Williams posing with this little treat of a dog. But yeah, no, it was a big improvement, and I think Sheffield are trying to work on. They can't build this new arena. I don't think it's extremely unlikely, but they're trying to add as much as they can of value to the tournament, which won't include spending millions and millions of pounds that they don't have, to make it feel bigger and better, at the Crucible. So that was one of those things, I believe, and it went very well.
You spoke to Barry Hearn. He said his deadline. He wants things to happen by the end of the year. I thought, looking at those quotes, to me, it looked more likely the tournament might stay and stick around. I mean, good story from you. So you can read that from Phil Haig. We should say smashing email we've had in from Andrew Fairweather. Thanks so much, Andrew. We'll, I think, read it out in our final episode of the season after the tournament. You tell us all about your love of the sport and regaining it in recent times. Lots of memories from you, including with your dad, and you sent us some lovely pictures. So we really are grateful, and we'll catch up with that and all our correspondence when we return with our final episode of the season at the conclusion of the tournament. I think we're just about done then. Of course, we have heard since we were last on air about the death of Pope Francis, and just to say that tomorrow, Saturday morning, that funeral in Rome of Pope Francis will be on BBC One. And that does mean that the coverage of the World Snooker Championship will be on the BBC's digital services rather than network TV coming this Saturday. Loads of great action. Talking about telly, I think BBC One have got the start of the Ronnie O'Sullivan match, so that will be good for ratings. More than 1 million viewers watched BBC One coverage on the opening day of the tournament. So I really feel like it's. I don't know about you in your life, Phil, but people that I don't necessarily associate with snooker getting messages. It catches on, doesn't it? People love this tournament. They're watching it every day. And more than another night, we're loving it. We're just about what now? Nearly 2 o'clock. we have a quick check of the video printer and see what's happening, shall we? In the match between Mark Williams and Hossein Vafai, which is the one we haven't updated people on, and that is 4-4. Couldn't get any better, Phil. So one match is 4-4, one is 4-4, one is 12-4 to Wakelin, so it looks like going one way there. But summing up from you, what a great first week, so much to come.
Yeah, yeah, brilliant. One thing that I remembered when you talked about the TV there was during the Ronnie match, and far be it from me to tell these guys what to talk about when they're doing their job, but in two at least two gaps when they cut back to Hazel with Kyren and Steve Davis, and they were talking about they spent the whole gap talking about what ferrule he's using, whether it's titanium or not. I just thought this is the one bit where like the most people are watching the snooker that don't really follow snooker, and we can really attract them in. We need to give up on the feral chat. It's so boring. I mean, it's all right if you're really getting stuck in and you go do one of those pieces at the touchscreen with Alan McManus during the second round of the Scottish Open, and it's just hardcore snooker people. But when we're trying to drag in the casual fans, I think maybe ferals will leave them out for a bit. That would be my advice.
I've enjoyed McManus on the screen. Great wisdom from him. But you're so right. I'd forgotten that. And they were doing ridiculous things like, have you seen Corin? We're trying to get a close up, aren't we? We can't quite tell if that's titanium ferrule. I'm like, yeah, you make a good point. The more casual viewers, they're not on the edge of their sofa wondering whether it's titanium ferrule, are they?
Oh,
Wanted to
and
see.
Ronnie was asked about it in the press conference actually, and he was just like, "I think it is. I don't know." He didn't seem to think it was important at all. So yeah, it wasn't for me that chat really.
Memories of that time when you tried to sell the line about the town chalk to your editor and
Sure,
got
yeah.
short shrift. Yeah. Goodbye, sir. I salute you and say we'll be back, won't we? Next week. Now we've changed our plans a little bit. We're going to be back probably next Thursday at the start of the semi-finals. That's our traditional slot. And then we're going to bring you a bonus episode around the time of the final, hopefully, with Rob Francis, superfan Rob Francis joining us soon. So that means that we got 3-2-1. 3-2-1. Ted Rogers used to do that on television, didn't he, Phil? That's going back a while. We got 3 episodes of our long season to come, and then we'll go and lay in the darkened room for about a month.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Lots to look forward to. Yeah, feels. I mean, that first round, that first match, Karen against Lay, feels a long time ago already, doesn't it? But lots more to come, and lots more to come from us. So yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll speak to you very soon.
We aimed for 45 minutes. We done an hour. It was ever thus. Thank you very much for tuning in. We know you're loving the World Championship, so I won't say anything patronising. Like let's try and enjoy it anymore this time, eh? We all are. It's brilliant World Championship. There's loads more drama to come. Thank you for sharing with us and all the other podcasts as well, all the other audio operations, all doing great jobs and loads of great written work as well from people like you. Thanks to Shane McDermott last week. Most popular episode of the year so far, by the way, numbers wise. Thanks to Shane. Great voice on air. We really enjoyed his company. And we're going to go. Keep enjoying this great tournament, the World Championship in Sheffield, won't you? And for now, from your old friends, Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf. Cheerio.